I'm Igor Kayfetz, and this is the List Building Lifestyle, the podcast for anyone who wants to build a wildly profitable email list working from home. If you'd like to make six figures, travel the world, and help people improve their lives in the process, this podcast is for you. I also invite you to claim a free copy of my best-selling book, The List Building Lifestyle: Confessions of an Email Millionaire, at igorsbook.com. Get the free book plus $3,000 bonus package that includes my best capture page templates, email swipe files, and traffic blueprints. Visit www.igorsbook.com for details. And now, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to the List Building Lifestyle. I'm your host, Igor Kayfetz. And today I'm hosting the author of Turn Your Passions into Profits, McWilliams. We're going to talk about some of the aspects of finally stepping into your true potential and taking what you know and the skills you've got and turning them into a profitable online business. Matt, welcome to the List Building Lifestyle.
Thanks for having me, Igor.
Yeah, my pleasure. Getting ready for this interview, I got my hands on the unpublished manuscript of your book. Kind of
Nice.
made me feel like an insider. Like in that movie, The Devil Wears Prada, where this girl was chasing the Harry Potter manuscript. So I kind of felt like that.
That's awesome.
Just tells you how unexciting my life is, I guess. So anyway, what I really liked about your book is you start off and you talk about leadership. And I think it's a topic so sensitive and a lot of people try to avoid it because of just the general culture and vibe in the media. People are just afraid of stepping up. They're afraid of voicing their opinions. They're afraid of offending other people. And there's very few true leaders. And of course, whoever's listening to this, I don't know their industry, their niche, their skill, their interest, but I'm pretty sure their industry is lacking leadership. So
Sure.
in your book, you encourage the reader to step into their domain and to become a leader. And you talk about how a lot of people avoid that, how it tends to be difficult for people and they don't really recognize the importance of doing that. So why is that? Why do you think is it so hard for people to go from just having an opinion and keeping it to themselves to becoming a true voice and a someone to follow?
Well, I mean, the word leadership just has a lot of misconceptions. We think of leaders, so we think of Steve Jobs, who can get a company to do, he can get his employees to do anything, right? And he can be up, on stage and be charismatic. We think of Martin Luther King Jr., right? The oratory ability to move, millions to take action, right? We think of all these people and then we're intimidated, right? We're intimidated. So we think of people, politicians, Winston Churchill. I mean, Winston Churchill took Britain through World War II. How do you compare yourself? I have a mission to teach people how to garden. Not me, but I'm saying if that's your mission in life or, whatever, how do you compare yourself to Winston Churchill? We think of our parents, we think of our teachers, we think of coaches, bosses, these people who they have a built-in advantage over their followers in terms of authority and experience and credentials and the letters behind their name and stuff. And so, we end up, we think of ourselves, whether you're young or whether, we think of ourselves, we're either too young, we're too old, we're not smart enough, we're not qualified enough, we're not worthy of that title of leader. And so we end up just shrinking back from the ability, this innate ability. And so we have a voice, we have a mission, Igor, but we diminish our own qualifications. We consider ourselves unworthy of that title. So we end up playing small. And I think we shirk from that title because of a feeling of unworthiness.
Now, it kind of smells like imposter syndrome almost, where
A little bit, yeah.
although imposter syndrome is, I guess it's when you've succeeded, but you still feel like you're unworthy. But for people who don't really carry lots of credentials, I mean, someone might say, well, Matt, it's so easy for you to say that because you worked with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and Jeff Walker and Ryan Levesque and Michael
Sure.
Hyatt and Kevin Harrington and the list is, it's an arm long, right? But um, they're coming into it and they're like, well, I have an idea. I know I'm pretty good at something. Um, People might want to follow me. People might want to listen to me. People might want to hire me. People might want to give me money in exchange for this, but I don't have any proof. I've never done this before. I'm
Hmm.
not, like you said, I'm not qualified. So how do you get over that hump? I mean, how was it for you? Because I know you've been doing this for 20 years and you've had the time to refine both your message, your skills, and you've produced so much. But for someone who didn't, like, how do you get over that hump?
Because I never forget the day when I was there. I never forget the day back in, Memorial Day 2005 when, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. We started a business, we were almost out of money, and we needed a miracle. I never forget that day. I never forget, starting my blog 6 years later and waking up every day at 5 a.m. making nothing. For 2 years, I made no money. I was spending $500 a month. I don't forget what it was like to be that person. You're a leader because you've already been where your followers want to go. That's really what it comes down to. There's something that people are always asking you for help with. That means they see you as a leader. There's something that people tell you is really interesting about you. I write about this in the beginning of the book. The first chapter is all about clarifying who you help. And I walk through this like, okay, if you're not sure what your niche is, you don't know, like who are your people, right? What is something that people tell you is really interesting about you? What is something that people are always coming to you asking for help with? What's a struggle that you've overcome? And now you can share with others how to overcome that same struggle. So it's usually one of those three things. And so if you can find something like that by definition, if people come to you, that makes them followers. If they come to you because you're the expert, that makes you a leader. If people say, man, that's really interesting about you. Dan Carlin he has a podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, one of the only two podcasts I really listen to, called Hardcore History. Thing is, Dan is not a historian, but he has the number one history podcast on iTunes. In fact, it's the number one for days out of the year. It's the number one podcast on all of iTunes. The only reason that is because people said, man, these stories that you tell about history, they make history come alive. So Dan's a leader. He doesn't have letters. He doesn't have a history degree. He goes on TV. It doesn't say Dan Carlin, historian. It says Dan Carlin, podcast host, but he's a leader. By definition, he's a leader. And if you think about it, like, okay, maybe it's something that you struggled with. I always go back. I've memorized this definition because it sums it up. It sums it up so clearly for me. I looked up the dictionary definition of leader, and it says a person who guides or directs a group. That's all it is. So who better to be a leader than someone who's been there and done that? Who better to lead others who are struggling with a problem, than you? You've been through this already. People are coming to you for help. They know that you overcame something. I think of my friend Alan Thomas, and I share his story in the book, and I actually texted him the other day because we finalized the manuscript with the publisher. Like, I signed off on the official final manuscript. So the version you saw is probably like 98% accurate, right? But I signed off on that final 2%, and I was like, dude, you're in 6 pages on the book, and he's a weight loss coach. Alan's not a nutritionist. He's not a physician. He's not an exercise physiologist. He doesn't have a degree. I think his degree's in communications or something, something completely unrelated. But Alan, at one point, about 6 years ago, weighed 304 pounds. A year later, he weighed 175 pounds. And then people were like, well, how'd you do it? So he started helping him. He didn't do it on purpose. He just started coaching him. And then they were like, well, you should charge money for this. So he started charging money for it. Today, he's one of the best weight loss coaches in the world. And it's all because he sucked at something and figured out a way to get better. And so this is like this misconception with leadership. Alan is not light years ahead of the people he helps. In fact, that's something that people, when they come to Alan, they're like, Alan, the reason why I came to you is you're not that guy. You're not the 38-year-old guy that's been fit his whole life, who always walks around wearing the tight tank top and biker shorts, smells like soup mix. Nobody understands why. And you're not that guy. You're the guy who knows exactly what it was like to struggle with this for 30 years. He was always the big guy and he finally figured it out. So he has these people who are successful in other areas of life. They're successful in business. They have a successful marriage. They love their kids. They're a great dad. They lead in the community, but they weigh 300, 400 pounds. And they come to him because he can relate to them. And the vision that I give to people so often, like just the visual, is imagine you're on this hike and you've got this super fit friend, the one I'm just talking about, right? He always, for no reason, he's always jogging in place and he's wearing biker shorts to a barbecue. And he's just like, he's this guy, you've never seen like anything but chiseled muscles on him. And he's 2 miles up ahead on this hike yelling at you like, come on, man, hurry up. That's not leadership. Leadership is that same friend, the same one, the same biker shorts, the same jogging in place guy who's 2 steps ahead of you, reaching his hand back and guiding you along the path. That's what leadership is. So we think there's this thing that's like, well, that guy has letters behind his name and he's the expert and he's 2 miles ahead. So that's a leader. Steve Jobs is 2 miles ahead. I gotta be like that. And you really don't. Not in today's world. Not in the world that we live in today, when it's easier than ever to reach the masses. You just got to be 2 steps ahead with the right people.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and one of my most favorite quotes that I heard Dan Kennedy. Then I'm a big Dan Kennedy fan. In one of his seminars,
Love Dan. Yeah.
he says something to the tune of the one of the the most important prerequisite to being a U.S. president is the audacity to believe you can be, right? Something like that. Basically saying that you have to just step into it. No one can give you the credentials, no one can give you the diploma or put letters behind your name that will make you automatically qualified. I completely agree, and for so many years, I've been, considered to be one of the top list builders in the world simply because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
Right, as that old Gary Halbert thing, when he was speaking to somebody and he's like, why people, why I'm like the best marketer in the world or best copywriter in the world, and it's like, no, why? Because my newsletter said so. So you kind of step into it. Now, it does require a bit of courage, I'd say,
Yeah.
to do something like that. And for me personally, when I realized that I had to be that way and I had to step in, I was scared to do it, but I did it anyway, almost pissing my pants while I did. And over time, I kind of grew into it, and I became a bit more confident when I was sharing my message. And I remember this one moment, because back in the day, I used to blog a lot. I used to publish at least one article per day on my blog. It was located at igorhelpsyousucceed.com. That website doesn't exist anymore. I also realize now just how bizoppy of a name that was. But I had like a proper blog there. And I remember one day someone submitted one of these contact forms, and they're like, Igor, I've been following you for however many months and you're so inspiring, this and that. And I felt like such a hypocrite when I read that message, because even though the appearance of my blog was that I was going places, I still haven't really made any money with it. Right.
Yeah.
So that felt almost dirty to me, but I realize now how important, how that was an important part of the journey. Now, I want to throw in a bit of a curveball,
Sure.
and express a contrarian idea, something that I'm pretty sure at least 1 or 2 people are wondering, and I think it's important we discuss that. We're bringing up this elephant in the room. And here's the deal. I'm passionate about many things that I believe people will simply not want to give me money for. I'm passionate about playing FIFA. I'm passionate about, a lot of different things, honestly, a lot. Like, I'm passionate about watching movies on my couch, right? But I don't think I'll find 1,000 people who will be willing to pay me for that. So the whole idea for me personally of passion to profit, right, can trigger that that friction, emotional friction for me, because it's like, passion. Well, I've got passions, but no one's going to give me money for that,
We talk about this in the first chapter, that the idea of the passion that we're referring to is more the message. It's that you have a passion to serve people, a passion to help people with a certain, typically a problem, or to achieve a certain solution. And the problem doesn't have to be like, people think, oh, well, I had a guy the other day. He's like, dude, I help accountants, and I'm passionate about helping accountants, to work less. And it's so funny. As he was talking, he was realizing, oh, that really is like serving people. He's like, I help them build a business that helps them to work less and not have to work 90 hours a week during, the busy season. And he's like, I help accountants. How is that something you could consider a passion? And I'm like, well, I look at it as you're helping moms and dads spend 20, 30 hours more a week with their dad, their kids, their family. How can you not be passionate about that? You're working in the most boring industry in the world to me. Like the bane of my existence is when I have to talk to my accountant. I love our accountant. He's a great guy. He's a wonderful accountant. I don't ever want to have to talk to him because it usually means I'm talking about something that is going to bore me to tears. So for me, that's not me. But if you're an accountant who's stressed out and somebody comes along and says, I can help you work 20 hours less a week, darn right that they're, you better be passionate about that. But it could even be about gardening. Think, well, is that really changing the world? Well, maybe not, but it could change that person's world. If they're frustrated by their inability to grow certain vegetables in a certain climate and you teach them how to, that brings joy to their life. That changes things. But we're talking all kinds of things. We're talking about, there's just one lady, I was on a phone call with her and, she had that same thing we were just talking about, right? The mindset that she had, and I write about her in the book, but like the mindset that she has was, I don't have the letters behind my name. She wants to help parents who have autistic children. She has 2 autistic children. 2 of her 3 children are autistic. And she wants to help them. She wants to help these parents, but she's like, there's so many experts out there that are all PhDs and whatever, have all these letters and certificates and things like that. And they know the neuroscience and all the latest technology. And she's like, I don't know that stuff. She's like, so I would feel disingenuous if all I did was just read their book and then regurgitate it to an audience and ask them for money. And I said, let me ask you a question. And I just remember going, do I really want to ask her this question? Because when I say this out loud, it's like, oh my gosh, wow, you're a psychotic person, right? I just said, do you ever feel like killing your children? She said, every day. I said, is that a common feeling of parents with autistic children? She said, if they're being honest, most of them every single day. Not literally like thinking of ways to murder your children, but like sometimes you just want to. And I was like, then why don't you talk about that? I said, you've raised both of her children that are autistic. One of them, at the time we talked, so he's probably 21 now. He's probably 18 at the time. The other one was they're both in the workforce. The one was working part-time. The one actually graduated college early from a really good college, University of Virginia, graduated college early and is in the workforce. Why don't you just share those stories? Talk about what life was like and the things that you did specifically, because all the neuroscience, the this, the that, the studies done by people whose names, you don't even know. And it's some prestigious university and all that stuff, while it's useful, that doesn't tell the story of the time that you got on an airplane and your autistic child disrupted the entire flight and how you handled it. Because in that moment, that's all the parent cares about. That's all they don't care about: brain science, neuroscience, studies, white coats, doctor such and such. They want to know, how'd you get the kid to stop, being a pest on the plane so that you could just get through the flight with some level of peace and not feel like you needed a Xanax afterwards, to quote this lady. And I said, then talk about that and use that. She's built a very successful business for her because she's working part-time. She's running a low 6-figure business. She has no desire to run a 7 or 8 figure business. That's not her. She just doesn't want to. But she's making a couple $100,000 a year, working from home, 20 hours a week, helping people, to overcome the same struggles she had. There's no amount of letters, degrees, or anything that could be better than that, than her experience. So that's what I mean by passion, just to be clear.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I think having practical experience in the matter, having gone through the journey, because it seems like the common thread of all the examples you provided so far is that nearly all these people went through the transformation and experienced the same
Mhm.
problems as their target audience.
And Igor, if I can, real quick, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but like I forgot to, this is just something that was on my mind. I would push back that you're passionate about sitting on the couch watching movies. I would push back that you're passionate about playing, video games. Now there are people that are passionate about playing video games. They want to know the psychology behind the video games, or they want to, they literally want to practice 12 hours a day, and that's fine. Like I don't argue with kids playing video games all day if that's actually genuinely what they want to do, especially today when you can make a lot of money doing that. What I do argue with is somebody playing video games 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and they say that they also want to be an author, or playing video games
Hmm.
5, 6 hours a day, and they say they want to be a veterinarian. There's a disconnect between those two things. You can play video games for an hour a day and be a veterinarian. You can play video games for an hour a day and be an author. You can't play video games 6 hours a day and be one of those things. You can't play video games 6 hours a day and be an athlete. So like you're I know I got off on a tangent there, but they have to be congruent. I don't think you're passionate about sitting on the couch watching movies. There's one or two things that you are clearly passionate about: helping entrepreneurs. These are things that wake you up in the middle of the night. I don't wake up in the middle of the night. I love watching movies. So I would say I enjoy watching movies. I've never woken up in the middle of the night going, golly, tonight I cannot wait to sit on the couch and watch a movie. I, I've got it. Oh, you know what? If I adjust the couch this way and do that, and oh man, if we try that new seasoning on the popcorn, man, that's going to make movie night so much better. I don't think about stuff like that. We just eat buttered popcorn with some salt, and we sit down wherever and we put the movie on, and it doesn't have to be the greatest experience in the world. Like I don't need surround sound and stuff like that because I don't care that much, you know. I've been in homes where they have the surround sound and it's really cool, and then I'm like, I don't really feel like going the effort to do that, you know. But like that's not a passion, you know. So I'm passionate about, there are things like I'm passionate about, like I am passionate about helping my children to achieve their dreams. That is something I'm passionate about that I'm probably never going to build a business around. But here's the thing: if I can in a way, if I help entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, to live out their passion and turn it into a profitable business, one that actually serves their lifestyle and helps them, like build a business that they can be proud of and that changes other people's lives, then maybe they in turn will have the time to devote to their children's passions. Like I've never missed one of our children's soccer games. The only soccer games I ever miss are when they're playing at the same time. So I shouldn't say I've never missed one. When one of our kids is playing in one part of the state and the other's playing in the other part of the state, I miss one of their games. But otherwise I've never missed a game. I take them to almost every single practice. I've probably missed even like 5 practices over the last 7 years. I'm there, like I'm in their lives. I can only do that because of the way that my business is. Like their practices, one of them starts at 5 o'clock. It means we have to leave the house at 4:15, 4:25 at the latest. Most people can't do that. If you've got a full-time job that says you have to be here till 6 o'clock, 5:30, you can't do that. So I'm passionate about helping other people to be able to live that same kind of lifestyle. And that's the kind of passion that we're talking about. So I would push back a little bit on the word passion. I'll be contrarian to your contrarian.
No, I can appreciate that. If you define it that way, I'm not passionate about watching movies, but I'm still passionate about video games. Like I can play for 12 hours straight every day for 7 days. I've done that.
Wow.
So I'm definitely passionate about that. I just, have to, the way I look at it, I have to prioritize different things, right? I prioritize my business, I prioritize my family, I prioritize my children. And it just feels wrong to me to put 12 hours into a video game versus putting those hours into, you know what I mean? Like I feel that 10 years from now when I'm divorced and alone, I would be regretting playing video games versus spending time with my kids and my wife. But
Yeah.
yes, I do agree with that definition. With the you know looking at how truly passionate are you about certain things, or are you just saying that you are? because that's convenient for you to say that, right?
Yeah. And even then, you just admitted that it's not as much of a passion as those other things. You see what I'm saying? Like you said, like I could, just like, there are plenty of things I could do. Even like I'm passionate about personal development. I'm passionate about personal growth. I blogged about personal development and personal growth for years. That's what led to me teaching this stuff now. But I decided that like people kept coming to me. You could go back what we said, right? What did I struggle with? I struggled with monetizing early on, right? What did people come to me and ask me for help with? They came to me and said, Matt, I wasn't making millions of dollars a year, but I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from my platform. Like, how'd you do it? Well, I'll share how I did it. What did I used to struggle with? That exact thing. What did people say was interesting about me? Wow, it's interesting that you kind of figured out this affiliate marketing thing and you figured out how to make money promoting other people's products and really not even having products of your own. All three criteria were met. And I went, well, duh, why am I talking about this other thing, which I'm passionate about, but nobody was coming to me asking me for help with personal growth. Nobody was going, it's really interesting that you know a lot of stuff about personal growth. And I never really struggled with personal growth. Like, I guess I did when I was like a teenager, but like I didn't overcome some intense battle. Like my story was, I've always been a personal growth junkie. And actually I've always had a pretty good mindset and been pretty good at this stuff. Well, that's a stupid story. Nobody likes that story. That's like the guy who says, I'm going to teach you how to be fit. Come to think of it, I've been fit my whole life. I was always fit. I was a high school athlete. I was a college athlete. After high school, I ran my first marathon at the age of 17. I don't want to learn from that person. I want to learn from the guy who went, when I was 32, I was 360 pounds and now I'm 180. And here's how I did it. That's who we want to learn from. So even in that passion, like I'm passionate about my own personal growth. So I thought that meant I had to go teach that stuff. But all these things led to me realizing, it's actually this other side, helping new entrepreneurs, again, to make their first dollar online. Because I know if you can make your first dollar, you can make your first 10,000, you can make your first 100,000. And I'm going to tell you right now, like the distance between 0 to 1 is infinitely greater than the distance from 1 to a million. It's so much easier to go from making something to a million than from 0 to 1. If I can teach you to do that, that's why our mission is to help 100,000 people do that. If I can teach you to do that, you can figure out the rest yourself.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. The amount of time it took me to make my first dollar was actually a shorter period of time compared to making my next 100,000. And between the first 100,000 to the first million as well, you can see it, accelerating. Then from the first million to the second million, etc., it keeps accelerating. So that's actually very true.
It took me 3 years to make $1. It was actually $588, the very first affiliate commission I got, the first dime I made for my platform. So it took me almost 3 years to get to 100,000. I got to 100,000 by the end of that year. So that was from March to end of that year. So 9 months to get to, probably a little bit less, but we'll just call it 9 months to get from 100,000 to a million. It was actually about two years, but still, think to go from 1 to a million was only about 3 years. The same amount of time it took me to go from 0 to 1. It's
kind of like
insane.
that. It's kind of like a spaceship, right? All that power required to just push it off the ground and get to atmosphere, but then you can almost push it with a finger, and it's gonna change trajectory.
Yeah, it's such a great example.
Now, speaking of your first. In your book, you have a whole chapter devoted to your first 100 subscribers. Now, this is a list building podcast after all, so we can't just not talk about building a list. So tell us about your first 100 subscribers.
Yeah, it's the most important 100, it's the most important subscribers you can get because, again, like we talked about with, the financial side, most people want to know, well, how do I build a list of 100,000 people? 100 people at a time. It really is. And what we found is, again, we have a program called List Launch Challenge, and we actually break it down in the book, step by step, a lot of what we do. And one of the things that we noticed, like when we did our List Launch Challenge, the very first time we did it, Igor, we didn't have here's the number of subscribers you should get. We just kind of threw it together. We threw it together actually as a bonus for another course. And there was no promise, like you're going to get 100, you're going to get 500, you're going to get 10. There was nothing. And what we found though, at the end of it, So we had this Facebook group, and we went through and analyzed it. There was like 180, I think it was 187 people, if I remember correctly, in there. And 60 some odd of them got to 100 subscribers. Another 30 or so about got to 250 plus. So about half of them got to 250, about 60 or so were at 100. The rest were below 100. When we went back and looked a year later at where they were, almost every single one of the people who was below 100 at the end of this was a 5-day challenge or 7-day challenge. Sorry, the first year was 5. We expanded it to 7. So at the end of 5 days, if they got to 57 subscribers, which is actually a lot for a beginner to get in 5 days, almost every single one of those people under 100 was still under 100. Every single one of them was under 500. There was not a single one of them that was over 500 subscribers over a year later. So when we did the next one, it was about 14 months later, and we did this little study, every single one of the people under 100 was under 500. Almost all of them were still under 100. Of the people who got to just 100, so this was the cool thing. It didn't matter if they were 100 or they got to 250, or they were. James Kalita was one of the people. We did a profile of him. James Kalita got to over 1,000. Fast forward a year later, it was the complete opposite. I think it was like 75% of those 100 were over 500. Almost half of them were over 2,000. And only it was like maybe 5-10% were under 200. So what does that say? It says, if you just get to 100 really, really, really fast, then here's what it does. Now you can send an email to that 100 and you could do something, promote an affiliate offer and make $200. Are you going to, let's be honest, with 100 subscribers, are you going to make $5,000? Probably not. I have seen it happen one time. I'll even say her name, Rachel Luna. When she first started, she had a list of, I think it was about 125 people. And she promoted a really high ticket item and sold like 3 of them and made $5,000. Okay, just to be clear, it can happen. It's probably not. It's probably not going to happen to anybody listening to this right now. I don't want to set unrealistic expectations, but could you make $200? Yeah. Could you make even maybe 500? Sure. It doesn't matter. If you make 200 and if you're married and you go to your spouse and you go, oh my gosh, we made $200 this week, changes the dynamics of your business. When you're making no money, and your what?
And your relationship.
Yeah, because that's dinner out. I mean, we went to Ruth's Chris. Ruth's Chris is the single most expensive restaurant in Fort Wayne. It was $224.
It's my most favorite steakhouse. I love it.
And that's my point. Yeah. Like, you can take your spouse out to the most expensive place for what you made off that little affiliate promotion with that little list. And you go, okay, but it's one meal, Matt. Yeah, well, if you go to Taco Bell, it's 24 meals. But, my point is it changes the dynamics because you no longer have an expensive hobby. You have an actual business. And then if you can get 100, you can get 200. And if all you did, in theory, was just grow by 50% a month in terms of your subscribers for the first year, that's astronomical. You don't even want to do the math. But if you continue to apply the principles, it starts to take on, like we've all noticed this, where now they start referring people to us. If you get that 100 and they tell 20, then that means you work your butt off. I'm not going to lie. The first 100 is hard. You have to work your butt off for them. This is not like go do one article and you get 1,000 subscribers. No, you work your butt off. It's hand-to-hand combat. One of the things that we teach, the first 100, again, this is about how to get 100 people in 5 days, not how to get 100 people, long-term. This is 100 people in 5 days to build that seed list. You pull out what I call the magic rectangle. I'm showing it to you on video, Igor, because you and I are in video. It's also called a smartphone. I call it the magic rectangle. You open up the messaging app. It's the little mine. I don't know what iMessage is. You type in the letter A and you pick the stuff that falls down and you send them, a particular message that we have in the book and all that. And you start building that list of interested people, right? But I've seen it happen time and time again. We had a message. This is no joke. I'll never forget it. We send all of our new students this certificate. And it says my first dollar online. Because if you ever go into a locally owned business, we were up in Ann Arbor, Michigan the other day, and there was a sub shop that was owned by. I found out they were two Armenian. They were Armenian refugees. They moved here from Armenia 40 years ago, and these were their sons. They were running this sub shop. It's just this little hole in the wall sub shop. I don't even remember the name of it. I wish I did, because oh my gosh, they were so good. Anyway, so we're there, and they had up on the wall a dollar bill. It was a dollar bill that someone had given them for the very first sub they ever sold. The problem with the online world is we don't have that. You get it via PayPal. You get it via Stripe. It's a credit card transaction. You don't have that dollar bill. So we send them a dollar bill. They get a dollar bill in the mail and this certificate. And I told them, you don't glue this to that certificate and put it up on your wall until you make that dollar. So we have pictures of hundreds, probably thousands of people now that have that, that certificate. It's the coolest thing. And this guy said, I don't feel like I can put it on there yet, but I made my first affiliate commission, and it was for a $4.99 product, and he got a 20% commission, and you can do the math on that. It was a $4.97. Sorry. So he got 99-cent commission. But he was like, but it changed everything. It changed everything for him, because he saw, okay, he had a list of like 102 people, promoted this one thing, sold one of them for $4.97. And he said it changed everything for him. And this was only a few months ago. So he's not a $1 million success story yet or anything, but mentally he's all in. It changes that dynamic. So if you can get that 100 subscribers fast, this is all about speed. This is not like, I know people, there's a guy who went through our List Launch Challenge. His name's Eric. And I won't say his last name because, I'm kind of making fun of him here. And I made fun of him to him. I was like, dude, stop doing this. He was like, yep, been at it for 4 years. My list is up to 82 people. And I'm like, no, you can have 182 by the end of tomorrow if you actually put in the work. And sure enough, he did. And so my point is, don't be one of those people who grow slow, grow fast, especially to start with, so you can just begin to get some momentum.
Yeah. Look, you're talking to a guy who's in business of teaching people how to build a list, and your observations are spot on. I actually never measured it like that. I had no idea that if you don't get to your first 100 really, really fast, you don't get anywhere, because
I didn't either.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me to discover that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I actually went back to be honest, we weren't trying to do some sort of a study. We were trying to get testimonials. And we did. We got some great testimonials. I went back to them just to get testimonials, because when we ran it the second time, so when we did the List Launch Challenge the first time, we didn't have any testimonials. We'd never done it before. So we had nobody going, oh my gosh, Matt's amazing. He helped me, grow my list. We had nothing. We just ran this. It was basically like, hey, come give us, I think we charged like $10 for it. Come give me $10. I promise it might work. But the second time we had, 75 testimonials. But we went back and looked, and it was like, if you compare side by side, the people in the Facebook group who said at the end, even the people who were like, I've got 63 subscribers, woohoo, and they were like, yeah, 63. They still had like 150 at the end of the year, but the person who was like, man, I only got 122. I'm kind of disappointed. You fast forward 2 years later, they have 3,800 subscribers or whatever. James Kalita, I remember that one. Like I said, he got like 1,000 really, really fast. And I interviewed him for that second round, and he's in, it was like 90 days later, he had 3,800 subscribers. And we found most niches, if like faith-based niches tend to be lower, but on average, you're looking at 50 cents to $4 per subscriber per month. That's a pretty good range. Again, is every niche at $4? Clearly not. Is every niche as low as 50 cents? Clearly not. Most we find are in the $1.25, $1.50. My niche is around $1.75, per subscriber. But if you think about that, at 3,800 subscribers and $1.50 per niche, that's $5,700 a month. That's the average full-time wage in the United States. Now, you may make more. I got a $125,000 a year job. Cool. I'm not saying you should go full-time. I'm just saying you can go full-time with about 3,800 subscribers in most niches. He got there in 90 days. but it was, pure acceleration, and so if he hadn't hit 100, he had 100 plus in 5 days, like I say, he got almost 1,000 in 5 days. If he hadn't have done that, I guarantee you he'd still be sitting there right now with 82 subscribers, and 14 podcast listeners, and piddling along wondering, why can't I succeed at this? No, but he made that aggressive move very early on. And I remember he did an affiliate promotion. So he got it really, really fast, grew really, really fast, did an affiliate promotion, and only made like $300-400. It wasn't a ton. He was like, I screwed up everything. He's like, I sent some stupid emails, just wasn't aggressive enough, didn't know that, you should send multiple emails in the last day. And just, he's like, I looked at this one email, the subject line was so dumb. I got like a 14% open rate. He's like, oh my gosh, what an idiot, what a clueless mistake I made. And he still made like $400. You screw everything up and make $400. That's a game changer for most people.
Email's very forgiving in that way.
Yeah.
I've made a few mistakes myself over the last 15 years or so. All right. Well, your book, Turn Your Passions into Profits. When is it going on sale? Where can we get it? Who should get it, really?
There's something in there for everyone, and that's not like everybody should go buy the book. If you're a entrepreneur,
if you have eyes, buy the book.
If you are literate, you should buy the book. Actually, there's going to be an audiobook version that's being recorded right now. So even if you're not literate, go get the audiobook version. Anybody who needs help knowing, like, okay, what niche should I be in? I already got my niche, Matt. You need help. What we talked about earlier, like committing to leading. That's, step 2. You're trying to capture people's attention, convert them into subscribers, create a community. You want to be a leader for their cause. You want to create raving fans. These are the types of people. If you're struggling monetizing, like if you're like, Matt, I've got all this down, I just don't know how to monetize. Like, I've got raving fans. They love me. I'm their leader. You skip to step 8. You can come back and read the other ones because I think it'll help you. But like, again, if your problem is monetizing, skip to step 8. If you're struggling with creating content, skip to step 10. Depending upon where you're at, like it could be for everyone. But if everybody knows somebody who's like that. You got a friend who's like, man, they know they want to start a blog or start some sort of a podcast. They just don't know what they should be doing. Well, they need to start at step 1, and go through the whole book. So it really is for almost anybody who has or wants to start an online business and grow their audience, be a leader, be a champion for their cause. That's step 6, be a champion for their cause. It's probably one of the coolest, probably the nerdiest chapter that I wrote, because I actually talk about like historical leaders. I got to kind of be like, I'm a history nerd, I got to like, here's how Gandhi did it. And, and here's how Jesus did it. And here's how Martin Luther King Jr. did it. And Steve Jobs did it. And like kind of compare, how they did it. It was really, really a fun chapter to write. To answer your question, it's, so it'll release, you can pre-order it now. It'll release on January 10th of 2023. But if you pre-order now through January 10th, like just do it now. It'll be there. Like, trust me, it's going to come in the mail. I just got a book yesterday that I pre-ordered on Amazon back in, I think, June or July, but I'm glad I did, because I got like tons of amazing pre-order bonuses, just like, we're doing. So if you go to passionsintoprofitsbook.com, a little bit of a wordy URL, I get it. Probably need to get a better one, but if you go to passionsintoprofitsbook.com, and I know Igor, you'll put that, in your show notes and stuff, make it easy for people. It'll show you like all the amazing pre-order bonuses. I mean, there's over like $750 worth of awesome, pre-order bonuses, because I believe in the book. And I was super excited because, I had a dream for years. I mean, literally, I had a dream that I was working my publisher and my distributor. My publisher is Ben Bella. And if you look at my bookshelf, like all the entrepreneurial books I have, like Gino Wickman and David Feinstein, like all these guys that I've looked up to for 10 years. We run our business on Gino's EOS system, right? Ben Bella is his publisher. Like, they publish some of the best entrepreneurial books in the world. And I had this dream that my book was being distributed by Penguin Random House, who's the #1 publisher and distributor in the world. And I remember when I know it sounds crazy. Like, this is not like, I'm not one of those people. I don't necessarily believe in the secret, and like the whole, like, if you see it, it'll definitely happen. Like, I can see myself playing in the NBA and it ain't going to happen. You know, I am too short and too white for that, but like, it's just not going to happen. But I dreamt it. And I woke up going, that's never going to happen. Like, no, I'll write a book and maybe it'll get published and it'll be like on Amazon, right? Maybe I could even be like an Amazon bestseller. And then, sure enough, Penguin Random House is distributing the book, and it's in Target and Walmart and, Barnes and Noble. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. But check that out. Yeah,
Yeah.
passionsintoprofitsbook.com. Go ahead and pre-order. You'll get tons of bonuses. You'll get immediate access to to some of the stuff in there. Some of the stuff won't be delivered till after the book because it'll make more sense then. We don't want you to get too far ahead of yourself. But check it out. Place your order, and love to serve you through the book.
All right. So Passions into Profits goes on sale in January 2023. You can pre-order it now by going to passionsintoprofitsbook.com to get the book and tons of really cool bonuses,
Yeah.
which is exactly what I'm going to do once we're done recording this session. So, Matt, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I've enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to having our listeners dig into your book because, reading it, you can tell. I mean, we spoke about this on the show, passion, right? You can tell you live this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you live. I mean, I can imagine you waking up in the middle of the night, saying something like, put out your message, or the first 100 subscribers. Yeah, I can see that happening.
I got to tell you, I'll tell you this real quick. So that thing that I shared about the 100 subscribers, that is actually dead true. So we did we didn't do it as a study. We did it to collect testimonials. And I don't know how, this is kind of weird. I'm just going to get like super personal. I don't know how else to say this. So I'm just going to say it like this. Most mornings between 4 and 5, I wake up and I have to pee. And I have
Like the rest of us, I guess.
yeah, well, I have a little notebook that I keep on the sink because there's something about it. Like, I'm lucid enough because I've been asleep for 5 hours, 5.5 hours. So I'm not like exhausted, but I'm also not like super lucid, right? But I'm just lucid enough. I have some of the coolest ideas when I wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes it's hard. I used to get in this, like, and I'd be thinking, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to forget about that. That's a really good business idea, or that's a really good, whatever. Sometimes I'm like thinking of like better ways to coach my kids at soccer. It's like wherever my brain goes, right? And I had this thing, and I was like, holy crap. Wait a minute. All the people that were, oh, we should go back and compare that. I think this might be true. And I wasn't sure, but I was like, I think this might be true. Because I remembered some of the names. Some of these people joined our mastermind. Some of these people became like people that I actually interact with outside of just like, Matt's the leader of the company and this is a guy who bought some stuff from us. Like, these are people that I've become friends with, right? And these are people that I've hung out with at events and actually gotten to know them personally. And I remember going, oh my gosh, all the ones that, I wonder if that's true. And I wrote down a note, went there, in the bathroom the next morning, tore that out, took a picture of it, sent it to my assistant, said, can we actually analyze this data and see if this is true? And that's how we came up with those numbers. It said like, yeah, if you get 100, yeah, so you're totally right. Like, this is the stuff that I think about in the middle of the night, and it's totally crazy. There is a tip though. If you're like me and you wake up in the middle of the night and have like thoughts, put a little notebook or a little yellow pad or a journal or something where you can write your ideas down and then go back to sleep peacefully. If you get nothing else out of this podcast today, that was worth the listening there.
Totally worth it. It reminds me of that Seinfeld episode, remember? When Jerry wakes up in the middle of the night and he's like, came up with a great joke. Then he kind of jots down a few words on the pad that he keeps next to his bed, and then he can't read it the rest of the episode.
That's right.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
that was a good one. There you go. Go ahead and visit passionsintoprofitsbook.com. Pre-order the book. By doing so, I'm pretty sure you're going to be helping it become a bestseller before it even publishes, which would be really cool. And definitely get those bonuses. and actually read the book. I know that, myself included, by the way, in this statement, but we love buying books, but it's not like we read all of them. I have a full stack of books that I bought because someone said I should, or because the title got, was catchy, and they're just still sitting there in the deep, dark, dusty corner of my basement. But yeah, read this one. This is the passion jumps at you through the pages, and it's inspiring on many different levels. Not to mention that I felt that this book had more like constructive, instructive, do this, do that kind of information rather than just talking concepts. Because sometimes I would pick up a book and you read a few pages and you're like, I get what this book is about. I'm done. Right? It's kind of like my mentor used to tell me, make the book your bitch. Right? So you open the book, you read it quickly, grasp the concept, close the book, move on to the next thing. This one you can't do it like that. This one you actually have to read because each chapter actually gives you stuff to chew on, and I really appreciate it. About like I can tell you put a lot of work into it. So again, go to passionsintoprofitsbook.com. Get the copy that's in pre-sale mode. If you're listening to this for any reason, you're late to the party, and it's already January 2023, then just get the book. I mean, simple as that. So, Matt, thank you so much again for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. And until next time we chat, have a good one. Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Get access to the previous episodes, transcript of today's show, as well as other exclusive content at listbuildingLifestyleShow.com. Also remember to claim your free copy of my best-selling book at www.igorsbook.com. It explains how I made millions with list building starting from scratch. Plus, I'll give you $3,000 worth of free bonuses, including my best landing page templates, email swipe files, and traffic blueprints. Go to www.igorsbook.com now to claim your free package.